Today on Real Pilates, we're going to be talking about the energetic system known as the chakra system. Thousands of years old, the chakra system comes into many different kinds of beings through Hindu and also through Buddhist. There are many different beliefs about the chakra system. The Eastern and Western have different ideologies about the chakra system. So, the basic chakra system is believed to be 7 energetic spots in the body that happen to run up and down the spine. They correspond with different energetic centers of the body over different organs. Some chakra systems for the Hindus or the Tibetans have 5. Some chakra systems are 7, some are 9. There are over 20,000 chakra spots on the body that have been mapped, 40 secondary chakras. So it's really very, very diffuse. The actual chakra system that we have in Western civilization, each chakra has been assigned a color and a sign and a stone and a whole bunch of other things that have been added on later. The original chakra system was really devised as a system for a gateway for the upper and lower energies. So let's look at some of the basic chakras. Let's say we have the seven chakra system. You would start at the bottom, which would be your root chakra. Then coming up a little bit higher, you from the root chakra, you would have the sacral joint. So that's another chakra there. Then you have the solar plexus, the heart, the throat chakra, the third eye, as it's called, chakra, and then the top chakra, which would be the crown chakra. So those first 5 chakras are more about the physical body. The upper chakras are more about the mental, the intuitive, the creative, and the spiritual aspects of the body. Whether you believe in chakra systems or not, they have been used for energizing, for deciphering, for healing for thousands of years. Although there is no hard scientific research that has been done on chakras to prove or disprove the benefits of them. We're going to talk a little bit about them so that you can just kind of understand the basic functions. So, that root chakra, which has been given the color of red, the color of energy, the color of our blood, is about your grounding. It's about your primal needs of food, of shelter, of water. And so that has been assigned to that root chakra. There are beliefs that if you have issues with the lower extremities, it could be an issue with your emotional root chakra. The next chakra up is that sacroiliac joint chakra, and that chakra is associated with relationships and other issues in your life. So as we go up the chakra chain, every single chakra is given a different energetic center on the body that we're going to talk more about in the following days. This is Pilates Master Nikki, and I'll see you in class. Today on Real Pilates, we're going to continue to talk about the chakra system. As we've discovered, it's an energetic system that runs up the line of the spine. A lot of the ancients have called it the attention system. Like our 5 senses, the chakras have been linked to an awareness or a sensor system to decode the inner workings of the physical, the mental, and the emotional and spiritual body. So, as we look up and down the chakra system, that first chakra is that root chakra. We talked about the energy, and the color of it is red, and it's your survival chakra. The next chakra up would be the one that's located more in that sacroiliac joint. And it's the one that is about sexuality, and it's about relationships with that continuity to it. And so issues in that area would be around that chakra. The next one higher up, right? And so that lower chakra is the emotion that's associated with it is fear, right? That sexuality chakra, that sacroiliac joint chakra is more about desire. Makes sense. So now the chakra that comes up a little bit higher would be that solar plexus. And that chakra has to do with impulse. And that is the chakra that is more related, as far as an emotion goes, to your anger. And you may hear the expression, got me in my gut, my liver is chewing up my liver. And so that's what that chakra is related to. And so that's a chakra where you try to learn that self control and all of that to kind of temper the anger. The next chakra up, of course, is that heart chakra. And that chakra's emotion is love. And the color of that, oddly enough, is green. So out of all the colors on the planet, while there's a lot of blue, there's a lot of green, right? And there's that love chakra. And that comes back to self-esteem, forgiveness, compassion, and of course, love. Traveling up higher, you'll find that throat chakra, which color is blue. And that is the communication chakra. And that leads a person to be able to speak out, to have will, to have free will, your individual needs, being able to communicate and express what is happening on your inner level. The next chakra up is that one that is the third eye, which is also linked to the pineal gland, which we're going to talk about more further down this month, and our energy and our light levels. But that is your insight. That is a bonding of your five senses: your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your hearing, and your touch, right? And your smell. And that is relates to the mind, to your individual self, to your being able to dream, you're being able to create, you're being able to intuitive sense, being able to assess things that are going on around you in your life. And then the last chakra, known as the crown chakra, is the power of your consciousness. It's where the you sits, or what you would call the soul. It's where you all come together with body, right? Your mind and your physical body and your essence all come together in that crown chakra. So, as the chakra in Sanskrit means wheel, each chakra from down to top has energy coming up, going around it like cogs of a wheel, and then going back down. So there's ascending energy, there's descending energy, male and female energy, not in the sense of boy girl, just in the sense of the masculine, which is a straighter line, and the feminine, which is a more curvy, creative, right? That straight line is that reasoning, is that I'm going to go from here to there, is that it's called masculine energy. It has really nothing to do with boys and girls. And that creative, let's stop and have fun, let's look at this, let's think about that kind of artistic, creative ways, a more rounder, and it's called a feminine energy. And oddly enough, our brain is divided into right and left, and we have the more organized side of our brain that does things in a straight way, and then we have the more emotional, creative, thinking way of doing things in our brain. And that duality is constantly going back and forth, and it forms the union of us. Extremes in any one thing: too much love, too much anger, too much hate, too much compassion, too much daydreaming, too much thinking, too much lust for power, or too much lust for love, or just thinking about survival, 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 money, money, money. All of those things in excess are not good. So it's the balancing of the energies that is super important as far as that chakra system goes. So when you work your physical body, you are working and stimulating that energetic, that esoteric, that more subtle body that is not so visual and so easy to discern as the physical body. This is Pilates Master Nikki. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you for another layer of real Pilates real soon. Today in Real Pilates, we're going to talk about the energetic aspect of the breath. Did you know that 80% of us, when you sit at your desk and open that email, you are experiencing what is called the modern terminology email apnea, that you hold your breath, you take a breath in, and the stress of, oh my God, I have 80 emails. Oh, I forgot to answer that person. Oh, I need to get the information for this person. That kind of changing of your natural rhythmic breath pattern can definitely affect your whole physical body. As we sit, the slumping forward of the shoulders, the rounding of the spine inhibits our natural breathing pattern. So that natural breathing pattern, there is a muscle called the diaphragm, and it's like a giant parachute. When you breathe in, it pulls downward. The lungs are just elastic material. They're just soft, and they need the power of the diaphragm to fill them with air. So that's where the diaphragm creates that suction, and the lungs fill with air. When the diaphragm contracts and pushes up, it pushes the air out. So when you're seated, that diaphragmatic breath, instead of us using more of our diaphragm, we're using less of our diaphragm. When you breathe through the nose, there are many, many advantages as compared to breathing through the mouth. We've reviewed this, but I'll go over it again for you. The nose is a phenomenal little seashell-shaped little thing in there. It's not just straight holes. It kind of curves and has different areas in there. And the nose produces the right temperature, the right moisture, and levels of nitric oxide that help the body absorb the oxygen and prepare the lung and the body for that oxygen. The rate at which we breathe is directly connected to the heart, because the heart is one of the only organs of the body that is not sitting. It's hanging on the ninth rib, and hanging from the heart is the diaphragm. So the beating of your heart can definitely be sped up or slowed down by the rate of your breathing, as you may or may not know. Breathing through the nose is super important to get the best kind of breathing. So there's exercises that we can do, and an easy one is to put your hands over your sternum with your middle fingers touching and your thumbs right up here underneath your first rib here. When you breathe in, see if you can get these two middle fingers to separate. And when you exhale, see if they touch. Try to avoid shoulders coming up when you breathe, because that is upper lobe breathing. You want to bring the breath down low. There have been studies done on breathing. So when a person sleeps, that breath should be very silent and quiet. If you hear and all of these breathing, whether it's a child or an adult, that is a form of apnea. That apnea creates a whole bunch of disruption. When you're sleeping, the brain wants steady breath with an even heart rate, so that it knows there's no danger, so that it can get to replacing brain cells and cleaning out the dead ones, which is only done at the deepest level of sleep, of doing repairs and maintenance on the body. And the body, if you keep having this apneic spasms during your sleep, has to stop and start again and stop. And this is why a lot of us wake up exhausted. There have been extensive studies done showing that a lot of the ADD issues that young children are having are directly correlated to the quality of sleep and the breath pattern in that sleep. You can get a mouth tape. There's several kinds. My favorite is a gentle tape that goes through the lips with a little hole that just trains the sphincter muscle, because your mouth is a sphincter like the other one, and the eye. Trains the mouth to stay closed when sleeping so that you can get that rhythmic nose breathing that brings us into that optimal kind of sleep. And that tape has a little hole in it, and it's very gentle, doesn't tear the skin, and you can get it, yes, on Amazon. Then there's another one that has a little cross on it, but I like the one that has the little hole. It's less claustrophobic. So the breathing patterns are super important. So here's a little exercise that you can do, is start to breathe an easy number like 4s, always through the nose. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold the breath for 4. Exhale for 4 counts. Stay without breath for 4 counts. Do this 4 or 5 times throughout the day. When you see that 4s have become simple, move on to 5s, to 6s. If you never move beyond 6s or 7s, I don't want you to stress about it. I want you to just find a rhythm that is easy for you. If you find yourself in a stressful situation, trapped in an elevator, God forbid, or just someone is upsetting you and you're having a rush of emotion, try the breathing circles and you'll see that it's going to bring your heart rate down, helping you clear your mind to come up with a better response. This is Pilates Master Nikki. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you real soon for another layer of Real Pilates. Today in Real Pilates, we're going to continue to talk about things that energize the body, and we're going to continue to discover the breath. Did you know that we breathe 25,000 times a day on average? It is super important, the pace of your breathing. So a really good pace of breathing through the nose is 5 to 5.5 seconds in, and the same time out. Don't stress if you can't breathe that much in a relaxed state. Just try to slow the breathing down, and that will help stimulate the heart, the nervous system, which is closely integrated with the breathing, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which is controlled through the vagus nerve, boost the immune system when the body has a nice breathing pattern. Humming is something else that's super good because it helps us increase our nitrous oxide. Just nose breathing is 6% more. But if you hum, people around you will get severely annoyed, but it raises the nitrous oxide to 15%, which is excellent. So humming is excellent. Humming with kids is also really good. Your facial muscles can inhibit or enhance your breathing pattern. And over the past couple hundred years, as a civilization, our facial muscles are less strong. And you can see in some ancient sculptures, they're more angular. Those faces are just stronger looking. And that's largely due to the chewing. Our food, when it's over processed, we're chewing less. And I know what you're thinking, I'm going to get me some gum and chew the gum. Well, that may help a little bit, but you need to chew things that have a little resistance. So chewing salads and chewing vegetables and things that are more difficult, that are more fibrous to chew, not only are better for the facial muscles, which will enhance your breathing, it also enhances the whole digestion. It helps keep your caloric intake low and the glycemic spike of the sugars balanced throughout the whole day. So eating things like, chewing on a carrot, a celery stick, I know you're making faces, but try to eat things that are a little bit more crunchy, like nuts. All that processed food, remember, there used to not be baby food. Babies were breastfeeding for 2 years or more because the sucking is a lot of exercise for the baby. It's super good for them. Don't feel bad if you can't or haven't breastfed your children, especially if you're a guy and you're giving the baby bottle. You know, if you give the baby a choice between the bottle and the boob, they're always going to choose the bottle. The guys will choose the boob, some of the girls too, but that's a different story because the bottle is easier to suck and you don't have to make that same effort. It's an interesting fact that lung capacity is going to dictate your longevity. Once we approach 30 years old, if you don't make an effort to maintain and take care of your lung capacity will go down. So, doing the breathing exercises, I know it may be a pain in the hoo-ha, but remember, it's about living well, living well, living well, living long, living well, and then just all of a sudden, one day when you're 186, dropping dead and never having sickness or illness. So, the breathing exercises that we've done are super important. I'll give you another one. Put your hands on your hips, like, what did you say about my mama? With the thumbs in the back. So, try to take a breath in through the nose and feel those hands push outward. And then exhale and feel the hands come inward. It's about bringing your attention to breathing down to the bottom back of the lung so that you can get a elasticized breath. There are many things out there that you can Google and look. There are things like AeroFit, which is this little mouth thing that you put on and you sync it with your phone. And those are all great things that you can do. But you can do simple things that are for free just to increase the elasticity of your breathing. Doing the circles, like I said, taking an inhale, holding it, exhaling, staying without breath, and pick a number. Do 4s, 5s, 6s. Just doing that once a day for a set of 10 will have a huge impact. When you do your cardiovascular activity, say, I'm going to go for a brisk walk and keep my mouth shut. Pay attention and look around to older people. Do you see older people sitting with their mouths open? You catching yourself? Your mouth open is your body trying to breathe easier. You will burn more calories and have a stronger ab if you breathe through the nose. Now, there are breathing exercises that are done through the mouth, and that's fine because they're conscious. It's not an unconscious, just I'm breathing through my mouth. Breathing through your mouth all day long is counterproductive. It makes for digestive issues, teeth issues, heart issues, sleeping issues, and the list goes on and on. So trying to get your just 10 set of breathing exercises a day is super important, and I want you to stay healthy and be happy. This is Pilates Master Nikki, and I'll see you soon for another layer of Real Pilates. Today on Real Pilates, we're going to continue to talk about things that energize the body. So something that may really surprise you is the ability to say no. That is a very powerful and important thing that you may think, oh, I say no all the time. But let's stop and let's look at this for a second. Patterns of illness have been associated with an inability to say no. And you may say, what are you talking about? It's an unconscious pattern of trying to please everybody, of trying to keep everybody happy, of you feeling responsible for other people's happiness. And this is something that happens with an early childhood need that we as humans have for attachment. So we used to live in tribes, groups, that we would all be attached to each other within a small society circle. And then we got more civilized and we developed these huge urban cultures. And even though we're living in larger numbers and we have the best communication that we've had with texting and video calls and emailing, we are communicating less. There's that need for attachment that happens. So a duck will be born and it will attach to the first thing it sees, whether it's its mom or a dog or a mechanical toy. we're that same way, that we need that attachment when we're young. And depending on how much attention you got from your parents and the state of that attention. So if you grew up and you were in a home where your parents were always under stress, you grow up with a sense of, let me not rock the boat lest they don't love me, because as younglings we all need someone to provide for us with a roof and with food and with protection, and that's just a biological need. So we develop this unconscious, that we're not even aware of, inability to say no, and we are putting everything ahead of our own well-being. So let's just look at anger. There's three basic responses to anger. The first response, there's three. I'm just going to start with, here's one, is you repress that. You push that anger down. Somebody said something to you or didn't call you, or they offended you, and you stuff it down and you say nothing. That stuffing down of the anger shuts the immune system down, and it makes you susceptible to sicknesses and diseases. Second response to anger is rage. They do this to you and you explode. Right after you have an anger rage, you are at the highest susceptibility for a stroke or a heart attack for the next 2 hours, because your body is now full of all these hormones, and sometimes it's merited, the anger, I get it. The third kind of response to anger is to process it. You feel the anger, you stop, you do some breathing, which we talked about, the breathing in circles, so that you can stop for a second and assess the anger before you let it run you off the road, and then respond accordingly. Like, hey, did you know that you were supposed to call me on Thursday? Or, hey, did you realize that I was next online? Or, at least being able to express your anger, whether it is accepted, understood, reciprocated, or you're sent to hell, doesn't so much matter. It's the fact of not suppressing it or letting it run away with you. The emotional and physiological bond is real. Science cannot explain it, but it cannot separate it. It's being able to find out who you are. And you are not because you're the head of your condo association or the swim team or the PTA, or because you're helping the children that are sick in the hospital and you're a candy striper, or you're doing work at the animal shelter. That is not who you are. That is what you do. And sometimes we layer on all these responsibilities because we're trying to constantly win the approval, and we don't even realize it. And while I love doing great things for people and being nice, and I'm all for it, and I want you to continue it, but I need you to prioritize yourself, and I need you to be able to express yourself and gently tell someone when it's not going the way that you want it to go, or you feel it should be, for what you need in that moment. Very interesting study done that they followed 50,000 women for 10 years. And out of those 50,000 women, let's just say the percentage of the women that had unhappy relationships in marriage, out of that percentage, the women that were in the unhappy relationship, or men, okay, that did not express their displeasure to their partner were the ones that got sick every time. The ones that were in a disharmonial relationship but expressed themselves did not get sick. Now that has to be a wake-up call for us to know that you can discuss things intelligently and make lists and send notes and write letters. But it's super important that you express what you're feeling, whether you know why, how, or whether it's fair or not. Hey, listen, I'm feeling this right now. I don't know why, but this is what I'm feeling. And learning to set up boundaries. So right now, if I was there in person and I got really up close to you, and it kind of made you nervous, right? Your first response is like your hormones start to release, that fight or flight, like if I got really close to you, right? Well, you love me, so maybe not me. But if someone else, someone that you didn't know on the bus or at the supermarket or waiting in an elevator, somebody got really close to you. Your first thing is that you want them to step away. And if you don't say anything or take a step back, that there is suppressing the emotion. And that there is exactly an example of what I'm talking about. So that right there releases the cortisol, the adrenal stimulation, and all of that that physically alters you for fight or flight. And while we need that, and it's a great thing to have, you cannot live like that all day, every day, with the things that are building up inside of you. So let it out when in doubt. This is Pilates Master Nikki, and I'll see you real soon for another layer of Real Pilates. Today on Real Pilates, we're going to continue to talk about things that energize the body. So I've been trying to talk about things that negatively energize the body, and the power of being able to say no energizes the body because it's an expression of a deep emotion. So let's say someone calls you up and they say, hey, you want to come grab a coffee with me? And you don't want to disappoint them, and you're in the middle of something and it's really not a good time, so you go anyway. And that ends up making you late for a deadline, or you didn't get the call that you were waiting for. And so these are the kind of things that it may seem like a nothing burger, but yet these are the kind of things of being able to say no sometimes when you need to say no. Our attachments with people are super important. It's a biocycle. We are social creatures. Today in modern society, there is more isolation than ever. There's a rise in loneliness. There's people that are just isolated because of modern society and the busyness and the pace at which we live. It used to be that your grandma and grandpa and great grandparents lived with you or near you. And now everyone is busy, and, mothers are being forced out into the workforce. That's been a long time, of course. And, no one really has the means or the space or the time to care for parents or grandparents. And so it's all understandable. I'm not throwing a stone on any of us that can't take care of an aging parent, but I'm just saying that lack of social circle, of having that intimacy right there in your close everyday life, has a definite impact on you. So the statistics of the people that don't express their needs and that try to do everything. A lot of the autoimmune diseases have been linked to that kind of a personality of always having to say yes, always having to please. And so when you're at ease, you have a natural biorhythm in your body. But when you're at dis-ease, it brings on disease. And that's really basically the whole nutshell of it, of not suppressing your needs and being able to express yourself. And a lot of the things are from childhood, of being attached and being accepted and that want to be loved. And you may not even realize that there are certain patterns in your life that you're doing that are just hurting you. And it's not about becoming self-centered and greedy, and it's all about me, 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 me. It's just being able to communicate what's happening to you, to the people around you, and to not be afraid that you're not going to be accepted. At the end of the day, if you really express how you feel and who you are, you're going to find out who your real friends are. And the rest of the people, fine. You have one more acquaintance in the world. As you see from me, when I'm teaching classes, I'm always talking about what's in my head, because not now, especially that I'm old at 70, but I've always had that kind of a character of just expressing myself, trying not to hurt others, of course, like, oh my God, like, could you really look in the mirror before you put on that that outfit today? No. I mean, sometimes we have to control ourselves, but it's super important that you need to prioritize yourself and make sure that you are taking time to eat a good meal, to have a relaxation moment, to do your exercising, to do your breathing exercises, to spend time with people that you really love, to not miss out on that important event at your child's or your partner's um, place of activity because you're too busy, because your work doesn't let you, because you have to. It's about being less rigid and about being more flexible in your life so that you can have a better quality of life. And I want you to live long and prosper. No, I can't do that, but I pretend. This is Pilates Master Nikki, and I'll see you real soon for another layer of Real Pilates. Today on Real Pilates, we'll continue about speaking about what energizes and gives power to our body. So the obvious, of course, is the food and the breath, yes, and the emotional state. But light is something that is super, super important. Everything around us has a frequency, has a vibration, has a resonance. Every single color that we look at, if you break it down and put it on a chart, has a different frequency, the way that the light strikes it, and then you perceive different colors. It's been proven that when I see pink, and I call that pink, when I see pink, I may be really looking at what is green, but I've come to notice pink and I will call it pink even though it really is green. And this is where other people's tastes and their ideas of beauty start to evolve, is that we may all look and call something by one name, but we're not all seeing it in the same exact resonance or vibration. So as Tesla in 1928 said that everything has a vibration and everything is magnetic. It has a pull and a push to it: water, the oxygen, your body. And these vibrations oscillate and can change. Sound, the oscillation of sound, is what created light. And that's a whole theory in physics that we can get into, and in the basis of the sacred geometry, which we will talk about further down the road. So the light around us is a full spectrum of light, and it involves and it includes all color. So the natural sunlight is a full spectrum of light that has every color in it. So you would perceive that, and that is where the color white comes from, because within the color white, there are all colors. Darkness, which is the void of light, if you close your eyes, you see that blackness and that dark. So that is a void of colors. And you're like, well, black is a color. But in nature, naturally occurring, black is a mixture of other colors. It is not a primary color, as you know the primary colors, right? The blue, the yellow, the red, and the green. Those are the primary colors. But it's important to understand that the outside light, when you're out in the sunlight, you're getting that full spectrum of light. And depending on the degree that you are at on the equator, you're going to have a different angle in relation to that light. And depending on what season it is, and depending on the time of day that it is. So you're like, oh my God, who can sit and calculate that? No, you don't have to, but I just want you to understand that the sunlight in the winter is much different than the sunlight in the fall or in the spring or in the summer. It's important for us to get between 10 to 30 minutes of sun a day. Most people don't get that. Everyone is sun phobic now and they slather on the sunscreen, but I've had carcinogenesis and I get that. But yet those early morning rays or those late afternoon rays that can be gentle on maybe your legs or parts of your body that you don't have to wear sunscreen for just a few minutes a day can help you absorb that light gamma spectrum, not just to help you process and have the vitamin D in your body, but also for the dopamine and the serotonin balancing of the brain. Sunlight is super important for us to be in, to look at, to look through, and to experience. Sunlight is what causes everything to grow. And eating things that have grown in sunlight, as opposed to eating things that have been grown under artificial light, which a lot of herbs, like sometimes the basil you may get grown, you see it, they sell it in the store with a little baggie on it with the root. All of that is hydroponic, that's grown in water with some kind of liquid nutrient and artificial light. It doesn't taste the same and it doesn't react on the body like basil pulled out of dirt. And I want you to think about that as you go to the vegetable store or the store and pick up your fruits and vegetables. A lot of the vegetables are hydro cooled, that they're picked and shot with water or shot with different kinds of, I want to not want to call it oxygen because it's not oxygen. Let's just call it stuff. They shoot it with different kinds of air to preserve it. And so trying to eat things that are more local, things that are more seasonal is always better for you so that you can have the benefits of the light spectrum that gives nutrients to the plant source and animal source of things that we eat. You know, a lot of the free range chicken and their eggs are much more healthier than a chicken that's grown inside under artificial light. And so it's important for your health and not just the vibration of that food, where you have something that's running around and happy laying an egg, or you have something that's sad and stuck in a little box laying an egg. I mean, what kind of food do you really want to eat? Because everything vibrates, everything has a resonance. And when I teach you from a spot of love, and that will resonate into the fibers of your body, whether you know it or not. This is Pilates Master Nikki, and I'll see you soon for another layer of Real Pilates. This month on Real Pilates, as we dive into what gives the body energy, we are going to discuss today and continue to talk about light. So that light spectrum, we know that the sun has every color in it, and things that are within that sun spectrum always are super good for us. A lot of the indoor lighting, the LED and fluorescent lighting, may only have the blue or only the red lighting or missing part, and it doesn't have that full spectrum of lighting. Halogen lighting has the full spectrum, but it's not as energy efficient, and it has a heat thing that it gives off, and so people opt for the LED lights. I always recommend going out and getting some sunlight to try to stimulate your body every single day. So our body needs light, and the ancients used to wear jewelry to help bring that light and transmit that into the body. And that's where like those diamonds and those stones are put on the ear as adornment, but it's put on there for energy capturing for the body. The pendants wore down what would be the chakra line, right? Would be over your heart organ to kind of harness that energy to help your body's energetic field. So rub your hands together really, really, really fast and do that for a whole 60 seconds, looking at a ticking thing or your phone thing. And then separate the hands and you'll feel an elasticity. You'll feel a little spring thing, and that is your energy. Remember, every brain impulse, every muscle impulse is a electronic impulse within your body. Your body is the most sophisticated computer you'll ever have. The light stimulation is super important for the hypothalamus, for the pituitary gonad axis. And we're going to talk about that. But the amount of light you get affects your ovary size, your testosterone levels, your estrogen levels, your focus, your brain sharpness, and it's super, super important for your libido, for your sleeping, and for the sense of happiness that you feel. The sun has the lighting has a huge role on all of that. So it's important to try to get full spectrum light when you're indoors. The ear, if you look at the shape of the ear, right? The ancients used to picture an upside down baby in the ear, right? With the tushy here and the arms folded and the head at the bottom lobe. And so the points in the ear all correlate in the acupressure meridian book to the position of a little upside down baby of your ear. And the diamond, of course, would sit at the lobe where the head is, right? Or the ruby, or the sapphire, or the turquoise, or the jade. And so these stones help bring energy. The ear is a super important meridian on the body that helps stimulate energy. And sometimes when you're tired, if you just start at the top inside of your ear and give gentle little squeezes and come all the way down the outside of the ear and continue to give little pressures, little just squeezes that shouldn't hurt to the earlobe, and then that little center thing that sticks out there. Yeah, give that little squeezes and then come back to the starting point. That's super good for you. It energizes you. It helps stimulate the brain. It's good to do that gently to children. And as you know, the cats and dogs absolutely love it. Interestingly enough, the suicide rates are always higher when there's less spectrum of light. So if you would, the light spectrum distance, let's just say between Vermont and Arizona. So Vermont is way up there in the northeast coast. Arizona is way down past that equator there. And so you can see the difference of spectrum of light. That difference of spectrum, that degree, will increase the suicide rate by 7% as you get into more and more darkness. It just increases that rate because as humans, we need and we crave sunlight. So if you can't get out in that sunlight, they do sell lights that are simulating sunlight that do have the full spectrum. Make sure that you have yours, especially if you're sitting all day indoors and don't have the luxury of being near a window. This is Pilates Master Nikki. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you real soon for another layer of Real Pilates.